It's Absolutely Auburn, a place where we'll talk about all things Auburn, Maine, because we're in the middle of it all. The City of Auburn's communications team is dedicated to helping you connect with city government and learn everything you need to know about Auburn, our city, our people, our events, and our community. Welcome to Absolutely Auburn.
On this episode of Absolutely Auburn, we have Jane Costlow and Dave Griswold, both of whom serve on the city's Sustainability and Natural Resource Management Board. That board works with 4 working groups, our planning department, and city council to really create a plan to move the city forward and prioritize our natural resources. Welcome back to Absolutely Auburn. I'm your host, Jenn Bonig, and Abby Bourne, our producers here in the studio.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Abby. Also joining us today are Jane Costlow and Dave Griswold. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. And both of them are board members serving on the city's Sustainability and Natural Resource Management Board. That's a mouthful. So we're going to shorten that up because that's just what we do. I think every government and organization just shortens things up and uses acronyms. So the Sustainability and Natural Resource Management Board, or SNRB, because that's way faster and way easier to say, has a very meaningful purpose. It is to advance the city's commitment to sustainability. And the board consists of 6 members, including representatives from the city council, planning board, and 4 standing working groups. It's actually a pretty large overarching group, which I didn't realize until I started to dig into this and do a little research before we started to talk this morning. And those 4 work groups focus on natural products and agriculture, conservation, our community forest, and sustainability. So now that we've gotten some of that kind of housekeeping stuff out of the way about SNRB, Jane, can you share how long you've served on SNRB and what work groups that you're a part of and kind of what brought you to the board and the work?
Sure. So the SNRB has actually only existed for a couple of years, maybe two,
22.
So I've been on the SNRB for those 2 years. But I served on the conservation, what was still the Conservation Commission, and now we call the Conservation Working Group. I've been on it for about 6 years now. So the SNRB was created basically to create a way for those working groups and the city council and the planning board all to be in conversation with each other and to try to make the work more effective. But I started on the Conservation Working Group and just decided that these were issues that I really cared about a lot and wanted to do whatever I could for Auburn to, improve its game on sustainability, but also just to treasure and promote the city's natural spaces.
And yet we have a lot. That's kind of one of the running themes that we hear when we talk to our guests about some of their favorite things about the city is all those natural resources. You could be in a downtown area, but you can also go out to Lake Auburn or, walking trails, parks, Mount Appetat. There's all sorts of things that are right here in Auburn.
Yeah, I think it's funny when you think of the city. So I moved to the Auburn area. I live in Poland, but my partner and I moved from Western Maine up in Bethel, and I was not super looking forward to moving here because I was like, the city. But it's really not the city, right. We're still in Maine, and Auburn has so much beautiful, natural resources that I've been able to explore, and there's still tons more to explore. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's nice. And the city can sometimes get a bad rap. How about you, Dave? How long have you served on SNRB and kind of what working groups do you participate in and how did you kind of come into this?
Well, like Jane, I was involved in the creation of the SNRB concept and I'm one of the representatives to the board. Each of the working groups has a representative. Jane from Conservation. I come from the Community Forest. Chris Carson is from Agriculture, and Ralph Harder comes from the Sustainability Group. But my history with this kind of thing in Auburn goes back probably about 25 years, I was involved with starting the original Community Forest Working Group, which also is an interesting bi-city committee where I actually originally started off and still use the name of the Lewiston Auburn Community Forest Board. We started around 2001, and we've been in constant existence ever since. In May, we're going to celebrate the 21st year of Tree City USA certification for both Lewiston and Auburn. So I've been involved with that. And then during the various iterations of the Lewiston Auburn Community Forest Board, there were several reorganizations. At one point, we were a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission, so I went to those meetings to represent the board and wound up joining the Conservation Group as well. And then in 21, I believe it was, the Agriculture Committee was formed, and they were looking for foresters. And since I'm a licensed forester, I thought it would be appropriate for me to join that. So I have lots of meetings during the month.
So you're a licensed forester. What does that mean?
Maine licensed foresters, they're the only ones that can do management plans, harvest plans, active forest management. I started my career with International Paper in the Woods up in Aroostook County. I did missionary work in HR for a couple of years, and then I got into wood procurement at the J Mill. And towards the end of my career, I managed the forest certification systems, FSC and SFI for Verso.
Wow.
So I had a long career. I got in just at the right time and rode the whole business cycle. They hired me when they started up 3 and 4 paper machines, and I got done when they closed them down. So
yeah.
So I guess
43 years, pretty good run.
Wow.
Yeah, I was going to jump in here and say one of the things that's really wonderful about all 4 of these working groups is that we have people who are both professionals, and I'm thinking of the Agriculture and Natural Resources group because they're working farmers on that group. But then we also have citizens like me who, I don't have Dave's professional background. I bring a love of community and some knowledge, but I think that's one of the things that's really fabulous about the way these are organized and the people who've stepped up to the plate to participate is there's a range of professional skills and background and also just people with a desire to help out in whatever way they can.
Yeah, you get kind of that balance of, like you said, the expertise and the skills and people who are bringing, a true passion. And that's nice to have a rounded out group like that. Because you don't always see that on every board. Yeah. So that's an excellent point.
And I guess one other thing I'd say about that is that the planning board representative on the SNRB is also like that's a hugely valuable contribution because there's a level of technical know-how and just, the kinds of considerations that they bring to the table are really important for our deliberations. And when we talked about, there was one of our early issues had to do with street trees. Is that what we called it, Dave? It was, a consideration of how to get the city to plant trees after trees have been taken down, and sort of try to make the center of the city more shaded by trees.
Right.
And the planning board has particular statute considerations, and so it was absolutely terrific to have them at the table as well. So there are all kinds of expertise. I guess that's my point.
Yeah, to elaborate on the ordinance that we passed last year, part of what the Community Forest Board has done is advocated for the community forest, which includes the street trees, which are the trees within the right of way, and we were able to develop an ordinance and get it through the council last year to make sure that the city counted the trees that were taken down for whatever reason, and to at least put in an initial budget to replace them every year and keep track. Oh. The idea was to make sure that we don't have a net loss over a period of time. Hopefully we can do better than that. And especially that's going to be important with Emerald ash borer here. We've got 240-odd ash trees in and the street tree inventory, and we're probably going to have to deal with that within the next 5 years or so. A lot of those will have to come down.
Well, and I know I've seen the city arborist and his crew. They do go out and they do take inventory and they check, like you said, they're checking kind of the health of the trees as well. And unfortunately, sometimes trees do have to come down because of a project or, just a redesign with roadways, or maybe the tree isn't healthy, or it's, starting to create, it's blocking people's view. There's all sorts of reasons why, but it's nice to hear that we have a plan to put those back. Maybe not in the same place, but at least if we're taking it down, we're going to put another one somewhere in the city.
There are studies out there, extensive numbers of studies that demonstrate the value of having street tree infrastructure in cities, climate reasons, mental health reasons, and just attractiveness to bring people into our commercial areas.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's, you see some of those, most kind of Instagrammed places, and 99% of the time it's because of the natural beauty that's in that space. It's not man-made.
It's a good time to touch on one of the initiatives we're doing for Arbor Week is the Community Forest Group. A couple of years ago, we started a project that we called Notable Trees of LA with some help from some Bates folks, and the semester ended, so it sort of went into limbo, but we're going to introduce that this year during Arbor Week, and we're going to solicit nominations from people in both cities and try to put together a list and a pictorial demonstration, but maybe a self-guided walking trail to trees that are a little different around the city.
And I love Arbor
that
Week?
idea. I love that idea, yeah.
When is Arbor Week?
Arbor Week is the third week of May 19th to
May.
25th. We'll have a proclamation from the city, which we're required to do for Tree City USA. We're going to have an event out at our tree nursery, probably just some maintenance. That's out behind the hedgerow at the Lake Auburn Community Center. We've got about 250 trees in the ground that we've taken some out and outplanted around Lewiston primarily. And we'll attend an event up at the Arboretum in Augusta that the state hosts, and we'll get our 21st year certificate.
Nice.
For Tree
So,
City,
start thinking about your trees, people.
I know.
Thinking about your trees.
When
Here
you're
in
walking
Auburn.
around your neighborhood, think and I wonder, Dave, if you've thought about, would people submit these with pictures, or how would they, because I'm thinking about one of my regular walking routes is through New Auburn, and I've got various tree friends that I always greet along the way. So would I take a picture and submit that, or have you guys not quite figured that out?
The details will be coming soon. Sam Boss and Zoe Lindstrom are spearheading that effort. So we'll have some communication before Arbor Week comes out.
Yeah, so stay tuned. You can always find the City of Auburn on social media. We're on all the things, right, Abby?
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Well, X is what it's technically known as now, but and LinkedIn. So
yes, make sure you stay tuned because, like Jane, I'm sure we all encounter some lovely trees along our walks, or interesting trees, as you said, Dave. So we want to see your trees.
One of the ones that people may or may not be aware of is that we have the state champion blue spruce over on 6th Street in New Auburn.
We do?
I know exactly where that is.
Yeah.
You can actually see it from Lewiston when you're on the other side of the Green Bridge looking over. Yep. Towering on the top of New Auburn.
Cool.
If you come across the Lown Bridge and look up, it's
like right there.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pay attention
Yes.
next time.
That's a state champion.
Guess I never paid attention.
Should put a ribbon on it.
I know. We should tell the boys to go put a ribbon on that tree.
I think there's a little sign.
Oh, cool.
Oh, there probably is. I think that
But it is
a lunch trip today.
It is on private property, though. So.
All right.
So
no trespassing.
No, okay. So we won't.
Get permission before you go hug
Right.
it.
Don't just run up to the tree. So cities are on the front line of climate change, and local government has a responsibility to respond to these challenges. And since 2013, the city of Auburn has made a conscious effort to promote environmental, economic, and social change. And in 2001, and it kind of sounds like that's when we started to also create this overarching SNRB board. In 2001, the Auburn City Council passed a climate change resolve.
Quick editor's note here. The City Council passed the climate change resolve in December of 2021, not 2001. It was just a misspeak by Jen here. Sorry about that, everybody.
And in the 2019 strategic plan, we also have prioritized working to protect and enjoy Auburn's natural resources. And some of the things that the city has done over the years are projects like the conversion of city-owned facilities to natural gas systems, LED lighting upgrades in the city buildings. That's why my lights turn off on me sometimes if I'm too stagnant at my desk. They're also on timers, people. Converting streetlights to LED, adding smart control features, using hydropower to meet nearly half of the city's electrical needs through the Hackett Mills hydroelectric facility, which is on the little Androscoggin River in Poland and Minot. I know I drive by it every day coming in from Mechanic Falls.
When you say city electrical needs, that's city infrastructure, not the city as a whole, correct?
Correct.
Yes. Like
yes.
City Hall and
Yes.
I think the school buildings as well.
Yes.
From Derek.
Yeah.
Derek told me that.
Like city-owned facilities. We've got 6 electric vehicle charging stations here in the parking garage on off of Mechanics Row. We also have some electric vehicles that are in the city fleet as well. And then more recently, City Council also designated $450,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, funding for Sustainable Auburn Matching Rebate Program. That program was really popular. I think the City Council started off with like $200,000, and then it was so popular they added another $250,000 to that program, so folks were able to double their rebate, which is great.
And was that primarily for heat pumps? I know this was like an incredibly successful program, and it might also have involved some weatherization and insulation.
Yes, I think the majority of them that did come in were heat pump related. But I think it was for anything that qualified for that efficiency main.
Efficiency main,
yeah.
I will say, I will step in here as a family that does heat. We heat our house, and we have a wood stove, but we also essentially heat our house with heat pumps, and we've stayed nice and toasty even through those super cold snaps last winter. So
that's
I'm on the cheering squad for heat pumps.
No, I'm also pro heat pump. I'm a renter, but hopefully in the future, it's something we've talked about with our landlords. Maybe doing. I think it could be. It's Maine. Sorry, this is I'm going on a sidetrack now, but Maine is like I think one of the highest adopters of heat pumps in the country, which is cool. And part of that was because Efficiency Maine does a good job with the rebate program, or they did. But
well, yeah, and I think people are looking for other ways to get off oil.
Yes,
Yeah.
And that may be one of the reasons because Maine is heavily dependent on oil.
Correct.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. But for renters, I think it is a real consideration. My daughter rents in Massachusetts, and they would far rather have heat pumps, but it's not up to them.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Right.
Something to put on the list for future action. And
yes.
I'm just going to jump in here because you talk about how all of this is in response to issues of climate change, and one of the things that I think is so fabulous about the city doing this is climate change can feel completely overwhelming. And this is an example of how all sorts of really pragmatic decisions and a kind of like, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and do these things because they're going to make our community healthier and it's going to be less expensive for people in the long run. So I just think it's great that the city's moving ahead with these things.
Yeah, and it like you said, it doesn't. It can be some of these smaller things like changing out the lights and putting the lights on timers and adding in some smart controls for, the HVAC system. So when people aren't here on the weekends, maybe things get a a little cooler in the winter and a little warmer in the summer. And then it changes back when we're in the building, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And those are all things people can do some of those things too at home. Yep. It doesn't have to be
Well, yeah, I think the idea is it doesn't have to be, you don't have to shift your life all at once, or we didn't have to make a ton of these changes in 24 hours at the city. It's just steady progress towards better decisions.
And new technologies that come in that we're able to adopt and take advantage of. Right.
Yeah, another key project that's in the works on the natural products and ag side is we're working with Chris Piercy over at the school department. He's in the process of applying for a federal grant that will allow additional food processing in Auburn. Yeah, I think they're going to try to cite it at the middle school. The grant's still in preparation, so I don't want to say too much. But the idea is to be able to access local produce and get it into the school lunch programs.
Cool.
Oh.
And they're putting the grant in together with, I believe, Lewiston and Lisbon as well. So it's going to be sort of a larger scope.
So kind of like a farm to table program, but in the school.
One of the state goals is to have locally produced produce be a higher percentage of what's consumed in Maine, and the Ag Committee is working with the school department and others to try to push that along.
And that comes from a place of sort of acknowledging Auburn's richness in terms of agricultural land. I mean, this is kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier. I mean, because Auburn is sort of country as well as city, and one of the main focuses of the ag group has been both supporting current people who are currently farming, but also attracting and incentivizing new farmers who might come to, take advantages of some of Auburn's open space.
I think a lot of people don't understand the extent that agriculture exists in Auburn, and Joe Gray on the Ag Committee has spent a lot of time going out taking pictures, and he's worked with the GIS department. There's pictures that are tied into GPS coordinates, and Eric Cousins has said that's the best data of agricultural activity in Auburn that they've ever had. So that's a major issue that Joe spent a lot of time working on. And it's an eye-opener. I've lived in Auburn for 35 years, and until I got on the Ag Committee, I didn't really know the extent of it.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things, this connects to work that Dave and I were very involved with and the SNRB last year, which was the zoning question around Auburn's ag zone, or ag and natural resources zone, and trying to figure out a way to continue protections for that land, but shift it away from an income requirement. I mean, it's a kind of technical question about zoning policy, but the intent was to make sure that we protect some of this land that has environmental but also economic value currently for the city. And Dave did an amazing amount of work trying to track down and quantify the economic benefits of that land for the city, residents of the city. And I think you did an amazing, you were able to track down a lot of data on forestry, say, but there are also obvious benefits if you have recreational land, from Lost Valley to Mount Appetite, and then all of the agricultural land incomes. And some of that stuff is hard to capture, because if you have somebody do a hike at Mount Appetite and then they go to Side by Each for lunch afterwards and buy gas on Minot Ave, well, they're making a contribution to the Auburn economy, but it takes somebody with more training than me to figure out, okay, how do you quantify that? But it did occur to us as we were doing that work that's an important contribution to the city that somehow needs to be accounted for as we think about, land use over the next 10, 15, 50, however many years.
Yeah. And that's, I think it's important with these work groups and SNRB. I think a big part of what you all do too is education for the community. And I know you mentioned Arbor Week is coming up. I know that there have been webinars. I think the most recent one was on backyard pollinators.
Pollinator-friendly gardens.
There you go.
We wanted to do something positive.
Well, and it's gonna, it's gonna be gardening season.
The
It
other,
is. Yesterday was gardening.
It's game on.
another video that we put out there this winter, it was kind of a joint effort between the Community Forest and Conservation, and really made possible by Carol Lane, who has a video business, Video Ops.
And she's on the conservation.
We did one on how homeowners can control bittersweet,
Oh, okay.
and it's got upwards of 250 views so far.
It's a great short little. It's 2 minutes. You
Wow.
know, it's
Nice.
extremely well done.
Paying no attention to the guy in the blue vest.
Which would be Dave.
And you can find links to those videos on the city's website, auburnmaine.gov. The Conservation Working Group, and actually, in fact, all the working groups, along with SNRB, have pages on the city's website. And the city's YouTube channel, I know, also hosts all of this material as well. So are there any, I know we've talked about a variety of things, some things that are coming up. Is there anything else, Jane and David, that you would want to focus on? I know you kind of mentioned some of the land use, and we've got Arbor Week coming up. Recycling has also been something kind of forefront in people's minds.
We're here now because we have a meet. We both go into a meeting on solid waste and recycling at
right
10
after.
o'clock. And that's the council and the mayor have asked the SNRB to weigh in on trying to find a more effective method of dealing with our solid waste and revamp the recycling program. And it's quite a challenge.
It is. It's a huge challenge, and it affects every single person in Auburn, really.
Yes.
And the other thing that I guess I would mention is one of the things that folks on conservation have been working on for many years, and really preceding me, is trying to get funding to take out the Littlefield Dam, which is it's a decommissioned dam on the Little Androscoggin. It's out near Martindale Country Club, if people can kind of think where that is. I guess it's, just upstream from there is a very popular fishing spot. And decommissioned dams are, they interrupt the whole flow of the river. They can be dangerous in a flooding situation, which we had a few of those recently.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
And so city staff, together with the conservation group, submitted a grant last year for federal funding. It's very expensive to take those out, as you could imagine. We didn't get it in the first round, but we've got our fingers crossed on the second round. And among other things, that will help to make of the Little Androscoggin a better place for recreation, whether it's fishing or paddling. And that's something, I just think the Little Andy, I live in New Auburn, is a treasure. And it's an untapped resource for all sorts of things. So we've got our fingers crossed on that.
That would be cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you both, what's the most interesting part of serving on SNRB and these work groups?
I think it's, the most fun part is making the connections with the other people that are involved in the different working groups and be able to give back to the city and try to make a positive contribution to our future.
I'd say absolutely. All of those things really resonate with me. Auburn has incredible resources, natural resources and human resources. And so, even people I sometimes disagree with, I have really treasured being able to interact with them. And it's also, these are really places where people who may have different opinions can sit down and talk to each other and try to have be working towards a positive outcome, and that is very precious. Very
yes,
precious.
it is,
Yeah.
especially in this day and age
You
now.
bet.
So the question we ask all of our guests, and we kind of alluded to this earlier, but what is your favorite thing about Auburn? And it doesn't have to be related to any of the SNRB work. It can be.
It's hard to know where to begin because there's so much about Auburn that I actually really love. But I love the fact that it's, kind of a city. I live in New Auburn, I can walk to the library and I can walk to Hannaford's. but I can also walk to 2 pieces of conservation land, the Sherwood Heights Forest and then Houston Field. And that is so good for my mental health and my physical, so that's kind of what I love about Auburn. And it's perfectly situated in Maine, I think, between, an hour to the ocean and an hour to the mountains. So love it.
I would echo all of that. I can get out into the bushes from Gamage Avenue pretty quickly. It's been a great place to raise our kids, and the school system we were very happy with. If I was going to pick one other thing that hasn't come up today, after agreeing with everything Jane said, I'd say the opportunity to play in the Auburn Community Concert Band, which I've been doing for 20 years, and we're approaching our 43rd season.
Yes.
Wow.
Coming up. So look for us down at Festival Plaza.
Yes.
On the third week of June or thereabouts, and come
Wednesday
down and have the
nights.
fun. Wednesday nights. We commit to every Wednesday of the year. We take about 2 Wednesdays off, and we're back up to pre-COVID numbers. We're up to 49 players now.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow. Cool.
That's what Milt had shared with me. We communicate every so often through email, especially now that you'll be starting back up in June. So.
Right.
So yeah, we look forward to it. We love having all of you on Wednesday nights in the plaza, and I know a lot of folks do because you do get a nice crowd in the plaza down there. So we're looking forward to the warmer weather and hearing the music along the waterfront. And we can't forget the Riverwalk either. Another
Absolutely.
For sure.
another wonderful asset here in the city of Auburn. Well, thank you, Jane and Dave. I don't want to make you late for your next meeting. So thank you for joining us and kind of sharing a little more about SNRB and some of the work groups and the work you guys are doing.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us on Absolutely Auburn. You can find all things Auburn, Maine at auburnmaine.gov and goauburn.me. You can also listen to us anytime, anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, just to name a few. The City of Auburn's communications team wants to remind you that Absolutely Auburn is the only official podcast for the City of Auburn, Maine.